Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Leveraging Generative AI to Build Customer Mega Personas. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So, as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So, definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event, as well as ask some questions throughout. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, BMO, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls just to step back, see how everyone is doing today. This first one's going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? And I'll give it just a few moments for everyone to think about it. Submit a response here. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. All right, gonna go ahead and end this poll and share these results. All right, looks like optimism is in the lead, but definitely have some feelings of surviving and anxiety in the audience today. Hopefully some of our presentation and conversation will help address some of those feelings. So I'm gonna stop sharing this poll and launch that second poll. What is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? I'll give this one just a few more moments. This one helps us understand your current entrepreneurial needs so we can continue to provide relevant programming. Awesome. I see we got folks from Texas, Washington, D.C., Missouri, New York, California, Ohio. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Great to see you all here. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll, share these results. All right, it looks like sales is coming up in the lead today, fitting for our conversation. And we really have needs all across the board. So thank you all for participating. I'm going to stop sharing this poll, and without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Jacqueline DeStefano-Tangorra, CEO and founder at Omni Business Intelligence Solutions, or OBIS. Jacqueline, it is such a pleasure to have you here. I'm super excited for today, and I'm going to pass it right over to you.
I'm very pumped and want to say a huge thank you to you, Michelle and Anna, production team, and everyone at NASDAQ for having me. It's awesome to be able to have a platform to talk about something that I'm very passionate about and to share those insights with other fellow entrepreneurs that are dialed in today. So really, really excited to go ahead and get started. You know, as I told the team at NASDAQ, I really want this to be an open dialogue. So definitely pass your questions in the chat. I would love to answer them live. And if I can't, one thing that I did tell the NASDAQ team, and I will reiterate this towards the end of my presentation, is that if you are someone that wants to learn more about this, and maybe I didn't answer some questions today, or couldn't get to them, I am offering for the next 2 weeks only a 15-minute, just free talk about AI, talk about sales and marketing type stuff as relates to some questions that you might have. So the NASDAQ team has access to my calendar link that they will pass out afterwards. So if that's of interest to you, you know, don't feel like you have to crunch everything in or get all your questions in now. You can definitely meet up with me in the next 2 weeks or so. So I just want to put that out there. And yeah, it should be a really, really good dialogue. Agenda should be roughly 20, 25 minutes. I want to just talk about kind of some strategy and ways to think of how you could be leveraging AI, generative AI, within building out mega personas, right? Talking about what are personas, things like that. And then I definitely want to leave like the second half of this presentation open for questions. So let you guys, ask them, and then just kind of go through some key takeaways and things that you should think about in your own businesses. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Just want to confirm that you guys can see the screen. So 1 second. Okay.
Looks good.
It looks good. Awesome. Perfect. You beat me to it. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about myself. So as Michelle mentioned, I'm the founder of Omni Business Intelligence Solutions. We're a boutique consulting firm. What we do is we help small, mid-sized businesses really just learn what their data-driven story is. And what that means is that every business has access to so many different data points, flowing in and out of all different systems. And what we do is we want to partner with our clients and help them learn about more, what that data-driven story is for their business, so that they're able to actually have relevant insights and things that they can make strategic decisions based off of. So whether that's in the form of dashboards or, machine learning and AI implementations, whatever it is that helps them become better decision makers, that's what we want to do. And we want to use their data with them, in partnership with them, to do that. So in essence, as a business, that's what we do. A little bit about myself personally, I'm actually kind of new to the entrepreneurial journey. 1 year officially in business, 3 years kind of been building the business in the background of my life. But I actually started my career for 7 years. I worked at PwC. 5 of the 7, I worked as a CPA, as a financial consultant, auditor in public accounting. And then I, like many people, realized that I had a calling to technology and really wanted to learn more about different tools and ways to help businesses grow, in terms of more of an advisory role. And so I actually switched into their customer transformation group. I was working in the MarTech group specifically, but I worked on a lot of projects as it relates to transformation and digital transformation, stuff like that. And so that kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world of technology in the sales, the marketing functions, but also just what is out there and possible for businesses to adopt to. And so after all that, I recognized I wanted to, be my own boss. And so I resigned, and now I'm growing my business full time. And for me, it's not just about working on the big projects, but having real value in working with small, mid-sized businesses. Because, as a small business myself now, you don't have access so easily to large firm resources. And so you really have to work hard to find out what the right paths are and the right investment decisions are for you in your business. And so that's what we do. And that's been my path, and really excited to kind of share some of what I've learned in that path and some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so really quickly, these are just some service offerings we have. This is important to kind of just shape the experience of kind of where I've built my career path to date and why I'm thinking through this lens for this presentation. We work with, business intelligence. So like I had mentioned earlier, it enables businesses to be making, it's right in the name, more intelligent decisions right then and there based off their data, right? So a lot of these different offerings are complementary. They kind of weave in and out of one another. And so we work with our clients in all different types of capacities, but a lot of these solutions are on the table for discussion now, more specifically the AI, right? Generative AI solutions, machine learning. What does it mean for my business? And how can I start to lean in and understand what should I be doing as either a stakeholder in a larger company, or key decision maker, or someone that's just in an entrepreneurial role. So thinking about that's where we want to answer some of those questions today, and hopefully we do. Okay, next we're going to talk about customer mega personas leveraging generative AI. So I did review some of the just some of the insights in terms of everyone who registered and who's here today. Seeing a lot of you are in a sales, marketing, media, PR type function role, whether it's your business or you're in a role like that. I think it would be important for you to kind of I think it's really good that most of you are here in that way, because you'll probably have more of an understanding over, what are the personas, journey mapping, and all of that stuff. And then kind of where generative AI can really come into play and enable you to think differently in that role. And so we're going to start with two basic questions. The first one is, what is generative AI? And in a nutshell, right, we've been hearing that terminology over and over and over again. And so it's a form of artificial intelligence. And I guess I should just pause right there, because AI, I think we've probably all should know this at this point, has been around for a very long time. We've been using it as consumers, right? We've been using it in our iPhones and our in-home devices, smart devices, our Roombas, are an algorithm right there, the way they adapt to furniture and hitting things. Like there's machine learning and there's AI all around us in the world that we live in today. But I think what really is eye-opening for a lot of people now and businesses is this new form of, it's not necessarily new, it's more popular because it's become so advanced, is generative artificial intelligence. And the difference is that now you're not just looking at creating or generating a prediction, you're looking at producing new content, new data sets, new synthetic data sets, new ways of looking at things, new audio, new music, new art, new everything. And that's kind of where people's minds are blown. And so I think, as a business owner, it's really important to see, like, how can we use these technologies to be a lot more efficient, effective, and most importantly, creative. Because creativity, especially as an entrepreneur, we'll talk about that, is the key for much of our success, our ability to be, putting our thinking caps on and be really strategic and smart and different and unique in what we have to offer and what we give our clients and customers, and the way we choose to go about doing so. And so some of these company examples here, you probably have seen them, but these are some just basic, obvious examples of tools that we have access to. Some are paid, some are free, right? That you could be leveraging now in your business, thinking about different ways and use cases for defining how you could be using advanced models of ChatGPT, or, image generation type models, or business productivity models that are now embedded in the Microsoft stack. I think it's November 2nd. Yesterday, they dropped Copilot now in all the productivity apps. So like Word, Excel. And so we're going to talk about kind of like how that type of stuff that's at your fingertips as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, is stuff you absolutely can be capitalizing on. And then there's also the other path too. We'll talk about if you are a small business, but you might have some IT budget to have, to spend on, then there's that alternative path for you as well in terms of making more proprietary investment decisions for your business, where you might want to develop your own technologies rather than using, any software services that are out there and available. And so we're going to talk through both lenses, but most of this presentation will be focused towards, more of the software solutions that are out there, because that's more, in my opinion, that's more relative for an early entrepreneur. All right, so what are MegaPersonas? Why are they important? So as a whole, I think if you've heard of marketing, sales, and understanding how to market appropriately and market to as personalized as you possibly can to the end consumer, you really need to formulate a proper persona. MegaPersonas are more broader, umbrella. It's more of a broader view of looking at a particular profile or group of people. But personas in general are just important. And I think that the more you understand what goes into generating a high quality persona, you will be asking yourself different questions in terms of what type of data you might have access to in your own business. Are you collecting the right type of data on your users? Are you taking into account things outside of their demographics, right? Are you taking into account their natural affinity towards certain things that they like, or things that they feel more gravitated towards, and how are you capturing all of that data and all of that information, right? What systems are you capturing in that type of information, and what are you doing with it? What is the end result of you knowing all of that stuff? So we're going to talk about kind of what you can do with that type of information, and, you know, how that can funnel into marketing strategy and thinking about how you could be creating more personalized content for your potential clients and customers. Because ultimately, I think we know, right, that personalization is actually really, really important, but also it's the right time to contact people, because I think the biggest challenge that we have is dealing with not necessarily that people aren't interested, but sometimes they're either not educated on what we can actually offer them, but also it's just their time. We're battling with people's time. And so we really need to understand when we send a marketing campaign email, or when we have a certain pitch or something like that, that we're trying to position ourselves and get in front of the right groups of people that we believe will be perfect customers for our business. We need to understand that, are we doing this the best possible way? And I think that having access and understanding as much as you can about the data in your business is going to force you to ask different questions and really think about how you could be asking better questions, and how you could be taking those questions into actionable decisions and creating things that are actually going to have impact, people are going to engage with, you know, whether they convert today or 3 months from today. Thinking about, you know, seeds and dropping, you know, starting the nurture, and understanding the interest levels, and understanding how that data can really support your ability to create different journeys, and understand how you could fill different gaps in that funnel, right? That marketing funnel. If you have a lot of drop-offs happening at a certain percentage drop-off in a certain area of the funnel, you know, thinking about how data and AI, and we'll get to this a little bit more, can really enable you to try and figure out how you can fill that gap, right? You can create a way to different routes, or, you know, different ways of thinking about how you could be filling that and helping to get them to convert ultimately, right? And so it's, data is incredible, and what we could be doing with it is really, really incredible. And there's a lot of tools out there for small businesses today that we could be using to help or enable our ability to really be successful with it. And so these are 7 elements. These are not, you know, it's not an exhaustive list here, but it is 7 elements to think about when you want to create a really strong mega persona. And so interview is important, right? Surveys, getting that information. Anytime you get any type of interaction back from a customer or a client, feedback, anything, it is so important for you to be able to take that information and to process it and to know what you're going to do with that, right? Goals and challenges, demographics, how people want to be contacted, what they value, what they fear. I mean, there's so many ways you could be capturing this information through your systems. You could be capturing it informally through, you know, surveying, through social media, just being a true presence for your business online, and really having your eyes peeled, because there's data coming in and out of your business, whether you know it or not. And there's so much to be said for what you could be doing as a business owner, right, with that information at your fingertips. And then the iterate and refine is just because people change, right? We're complex beings, and our interest, desires, how we want to be contacted, a lot of this type of stuff changes over time, you know, probably as we get older or whatnot as well. And so kind of taking whatever you're using this data for, right, in terms of creating personas or creating a way to look at your end users and customers, being mindful that it is an iterative process. Everything in technology is always iterative. It's always needing to be maintained and monitored and things like that. And so just being mindful of that, because like I said, people change, right? And the person you might be marketing to today might be a different person 2 years from now. So just kind of thinking about some of those elements.
Hey,
This is,
Jacqueline, real
yeah.
quick, but before you move on, can you just quickly explain what kind of interview simulation is referring to?
Yeah, so that's more so like, if you know how sometimes you have you'll do some sort of a call, or you buy a product or something, and people want to know like, hey, what is, they want to know like information from you, like get feedback and survey and stuff. So that information is important, because you could take that information, right, and you could be looking at, you know, here's what the responses were. You could get some sort of a sentiment analysis out of it. But from an AI perspective too, you could also be using that to, you could go to ChatGPT and you could take, obviously redact PII and, health information, nothing like proprietary. I would never put into any open models like that, but you could be taking those dialogues and you could be dropping them in for sentiment analysis, for, language analysis. And that could help support your ability to understand this person's psychology, their thinking patterns even more, because you have a large language model that's actually evaluating something and giving you some different ways or different different perspectives on how you might want to approach them from a marketing standpoint. And so I think I hope that answers the question that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So this is a slide. I'm not going to beat this slide up because you guys are going to get access to these slides after the fact anyway. But the reason why I put this slide on here is because every room I enter into, any meeting I'm a part of, there's always that first question of, do we have budget for this? Are we going to build in-house, or are we going to buy or license services and softwares out there available? And so for me, this is very high level. It's not as technical as what it could be, but there's a lot of decisions that go into making one of those, making a decision if you're going to build or if you're going to buy or license and subscribe, right? The biggest thing is that typically if you're building, you need a budget. And it varies by business, right? In terms of what your IT budget is and stuff like that. It could be a certain percentage allocation, but for most of us in the small business function, we are in a place where we are looking to use what's available to us today, right? How can we be a part of doing the things we want to do in sales and marketing with what we already have access to? And so I say, first of all, it's really, really important to just evaluate what your needs are in the business, getting an understanding over where the gaps are, where you might feel that there's certain process failures or areas for improvement or areas that are repetitive that could be automated. And so just taking a snapshot of your business first and foremost is just very, very key. It's very important before you make any type of investment decisions. The second thing is really you want to be able to research and look at different tools out there. And so it's important to understand the features, scalability, if you need to actually integrate them into your softwares or whatnot. But a lot of tools that, there's Adobe Customer Journey Analytics. I don't know if a lot of you would be using that on the call today, but that's a great example of a customer-focused type software that is actually implementing generative AI technologies into it now. And that could mean that it might actually suggest doing certain different changes or making adjustments in the funnel, the marketing funnel, based off of its analysis of the customer journey and the engagement or lack of engagement with that journey itself. And so a lot of these, Microsoft, Adobe, you name it, like they are, Google too, they are putting generative technologies into a lot of what we already have access to. Now, granted, sometimes I think Microsoft and Google might be doing this too. It might be an additional subscription to have access to some of this type of technology, but there's a lot of tools out there that we do have access to. We might already be paying for in our business that we just need to really keep our eyes open on the current vendors that we're giving business to and see what they're up to, right? See what's on their roadmap. Another big one is Microsoft Dynamics. So we actually just worked with them on doing a marketing campaign, and it gave us insight into being able to learn more about this platform, which I found to be fascinating. So Dynamics 365 is like their CRM. They have, I think it's Customer Insights and Sales Copilot. So they have now, obviously we've all heard about the Copilot thing that got rolled out yesterday or whatnot for Office 365. But Microsoft developed this Copilot technology with the idea that they wanted to be able to roll it across not only Office productivity apps, but also in ERP and CRM functions as well. And so, if you're a business operating where you actually have a CRM that's active that you're using, looking at that type of technology, because Sales Copilot and Customer Insights, they're technologies that are enabling us to pretty much personalize our campaign offers, understand, being able to send emails when people are sleeping, and being able to do things and have a lot more insight and intelligence and the ability to react and develop new product offerings or customize or personalize in real time because of the intelligence that they have. And the Copilot is also helping employees too that are using these types of technologies in sales and marketing functions actually become, more efficient, but also think differently and think more creatively in terms of how they can approach a particular issue or solve a problem. And so it's incredible to see kind of how each tech company is evolving and how they're addressing the different issues that we have or we face in different functions of a business. And so, for anyone that's on this call, I would say if you're looking to just kind of explore more, I would just definitely research what you're already paying for and see what's out there in terms of what they're planning to do to make it even better. And then just lastly, like if and when you do make that decision, thinking about piloting and testing and integrating and onboarding. I mean, there's so many other elements that go into a successful implementation or a successful usage of a new type of technology. There's a human capital component. There's training. There's making sure it integrates well with your other systems. So the list kind of goes on, but really thinking about how you can really just be successful in using these types of technologies. And so I kind of touched upon some of this already in the slide on the last one, but chatbots, if you have chatbots on your site, that's collecting data right there. That is natural language data coming in where your customers or your clients are actually expressing their concerns or their preferences, behavioral patterns, things like that. And that could be used for just like natural, sentiment analysis, topic modeling, understanding the intent recognition, defining pain points, things like that. It's really, really important. And so using that data right then and there, well, how could generative AI actually enrich that in a way? And so whether you have access to this in any one of these platforms, and again, non-exhaustive list here, or you're building something, right? The idea is to think along the lines of how can generative AI enrich what I have access to? And so it can create simulated dialogues, right? Think similar to what we were talking about before, that can predict future customer interactions. And so training models, right, that are actually trained on your customer like conversation patterns, the Q&A, the responses you give as a business, as a brand, right? Being able to take that information and create new ways where there might be new questions that you can anticipate. And maybe those new questions might lead to a new service offering, a new product, or a new way of, executing a product or something like that. And so the door is kind of like this door that never closes. It's just like it goes on for infinity when you think about the possibilities of how generative AI can really enrich what you already have access to. And so, in the CRM sales side of things as well, actual transactional data where you have historical sales, you have purchase history, you have service records, operational information, right, being captured. Well, what could you do with that? One example is you could be using that to be creating new profiles, profiling new statistically plausible personas that you might be able to uncover just by looking at your data from a different way, So I think it's really incredible when you think about those two uses. And then the third one is marketing automation platforms. So customer journeys and touch points and campaigns, thinking about how can generative AI, well, it could also be helping us create what if scenarios, helping us understand that what if all of our customers in this type of a group of a customer, right, this segment specifically keeps dropping off at this point in the funnel. Well, what could we be doing to get them to go to actually convert, right, to buy our services or sales or whatever? Well, it could offer us options. It could say, well, maybe if you started to do X, Y, and Z in your campaign, you drip this way, then maybe let's see what that yields. And it could really give you maybe 5, 10, 50, whatever, like it's endless, right? The ways that you could be mapping out new journeys or new ways for your customers to actually convert. And that could absolutely inform your marketing strategy team and content creation team to be adjusting, to be pivoting. So it really, it's incredible to me when I think about what is available, in terms of what is actually available. A lot of these tools, I am confident, and they all have some form of AI in them today. But generative AI is something that I can tell you just about almost any one of these large, IT or software providers are looking to incorporate that type of technology in. So that's why I said, keep your eyes open, ask questions, talk to your vendor, your relationship managers that you have access to, and learn more about the roadmap, because this type of stuff is on its way, if not already available, before you kind of go out and even make any substantial financial investments. Okay. So now I want to talk really quickly about data collection. So we talked about this before, but I want to go through a really quick example, actually, like talking about if we wanted to use ChatGPT, right? I would say the best way to start with anything in terms of prompting is providing context, no matter what you're doing. Personally, I pay for ChatGPT. I find the more advanced models to be really effective. It's a business expense, and it's a really valid one, because it's been night and day what you can do with some of these advanced models versus the free ones. So if you are looking at something, and even if that's something you wanted to take to the 15-minute free session with me, I could tell you about what's available for you in those models and how that might be able to help you. The reason why I say that is because there's data analytics models actually available too, where you could be getting some quick insights, whether you have access to platforms right now that are telling you these insights, or you want to go and get them quickly yourself. I mean, you could drag and drop files into the data analysis model that OpenAI has today and be getting things like this in, snap of a finger. So kind of thinking about why that's important. Well, if you want to start with engaging and learning, prompting, and maybe using ChatGPT as a very basic example, for how you might want to start to create mega personas, or start to learn more about ways to market more personalized or different to your existing client base, I would say you want to start with really clean data. Obviously, that would be a really good starting point. But you want to tell the language models, you want to tell ChatGPT, you want to give it context. You want it to know as much as you possibly can share with it about your business. That includes strengths, right? Weaknesses, the opportunities you guys have as a business, the threats, the competition, your revenue model. How do you guys actually make money? Like, do as much as you possibly can, give it context first, and then craft we'll go through in the next slide. We're going to talk about some prompt examples that you could actually have to use, but you want it to have as much data as possible. And so if you have these insights already ready, so like you could use one window in ChatGPT, dump your information in from, wherever you want to pull it from, CRM, sales reports, your Google Analytics, traffic, right, to your websites. If you have any customer feedback survey, if you have any social media analytics you want to kind of tag in here, any email information you have, just kind of pull it together. Get some insights. These are insights right here. They're simple statements that tell you information about your business. And from those insights, you could be leveraging those plus the business context in a really high quality prompt that would enable you to actually start to see the potential different personas that might exist in your business model, whether you know of them or not, right? And why that's important is because the more you ask, the more you get at a ChatGPT. And that's important because if you are trying to be as personal as you can with your marketing efforts, the difference of one detail can be a decision, right? That could be equal to one decision you make with your marketing effort, which could be the difference between a sale or no sale. So really getting down to that level of detail is really important. And so we'll talk about kind of, if I were to take any one of these, or if I wanted to consolidate any one of these types of insights that came from my own data source, right, off of my own businesses as well, my own business itself, right, based off the information I've gathered through different systems I might have, well, then I would want to probably go and craft something that will help me profile the right type of people or help us generate the right type of strategy that would be helpful, right? So the first one on the top left is kind of focusing more on demographic data. It's asking us to help generate us a narrative describing a day in the life of our typical customer. Well, why do we care about a day in the life? Because there might be something in that day in the life that could be something you could be funny, right, in your marketing efforts, or something that might be serious that you might want to address. And so whether it's real or not, it's not that important, but it gives you options to consider when trying to personalize your marketing efforts. And so thinking about that's one option. And then the next one is more on psychographic profiles, interests, and values. What content themes should we be prioritizing to increase customer engagement? And so putting as much information as you possibly can about maybe your social media analytics in, and any information you have on them in that respect, and then asking that question, you might be surprised with what it comes out with. And you can continuously and iteratively ask it to go into more detail. And so and the one on the right, like, how do we create a detailed persona that helps us create a repeat customer with a high lifetime value? How can we craft a mega persona that represents our most support seeking customer segment? Help us outline a comprehensive mega persona that can guide our product development strategy. And so these are all ways, and this is just simple ways where we could be using really effective prompts in a ChatGPT setting, if that's where you're at right now, and using that information that you have about your business to start getting more creative. And so this is under the assumption that generative technology is not going to be available maybe right now or today in the existing platforms you might be paying for. But if you're not paying for platforms and you're still very much like, in the early stages and just kind of using what's out there, and then this is definitely for you. You should absolutely be doing this because this will enable your creative juices to start flowing and how you could really think about being creative with, marketing.
Hey, Jacqueline, we had a quick question
Yeah.
regarding, can mega personas be created not just for individuals, but, maybe for companies in the case of like a B2B
100%.
scenario?
Great question. Yeah, definitely. So mega personas could be at the individual, they could be at the business level. They are representing think of it as like an umbrella, right? They are representing a group or segment, something of individuals or businesses that have the same affinities, same buying habits, same way of however you want to group them. If it's their same thinking patterns, if it's the same way that they do business, it's the same, whatever it is that kind of clusters them together is creating some sort of a mega persona there. So absolutely, if you're in a B2B type world or environment, you could potentially be noticing that there might be certain businesses that transact with you in a particular way versus others. Great question.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
I skipped over this one because we basically just went through, this was just the formalized version of the prompt that you might want to put into a ChatGPT setting. And all this really is just to show us that, if we were to explore the functionality of using tools, generative technology, whether again it's embedded in our existing applications, or we want to go out and use whatever's out there by OpenAI or etc., it can really help you refine and really get down to a detail that could be the difference for a sale. And so it just shows you that potentially, like, if we were to flush through, and what I did with ChatGPT in this particular slide was, I asked it to produce me, a persona based off the information I fed it in the previous slides. And then I basically started in a whole new chat instance and didn't feed it all of that information and asked and told it about my company, but I didn't feed it the insights in that setting. And it produced a much more high level, response, not so detailed to my business in that sense. So I thought that was interesting. It really does have an impact what we feed it, to make it as, I guess, as tailored to whatever our use case is as much as possible. And so I think I'm at the time I wanted to be at to leave some question time open. I will stop sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. That was super, super informative and just very thorough. So just to touch on a few points that you briefly mentioned, we kind of went over like all of these tools and the strategies that are so easily accessible to so many small businesses and startups today. So can you talk more about the role of creativity and what advice you might give to entrepreneurs who are looking to kind of harness the creativity they have and infuse it into their marketing and product development strategies to better distinguish themselves?
Yeah, and I love this question because I think for a long time we've spoken about how creativity is important, but I think people are waking up and realizing how essential it is now more than ever when you're dealing with new AI products and services. Because right, these models that are out there they're mimicking, they're learning patterns and stuff, but they can generate new thoughts or new, ways of thinking about things. But it really is our ability to connect dots in our own brain and come up with really distinguished ways of marketing things, or having even just ideas that we might have thought have been silly that could really actually, combine that human intelligence of having that really creative edge on how we operate and do business and work with our clients and the interesting ways we want to do things, infusing that with what is available in the AI space in terms of large language model technology, or using different ways of using even like Adobe's like generative fill is like blowing people's minds too, like image generation and stuff. Like, what could you be doing and how you could be doing that? Well, I tell people, like, do everything you possibly can as a business owner to exercise your creativity as frequent as possible in any outlet, right? So if you love writing, or if you like doing things that relax your mind and just let you wonder and ponder and things like that, that is so important, because that is actually what is going to relax your mind enough to be able to make new connections in your brain and allow you to harness that type of creativity towards putting it into your business, right? Maybe you're in a business that everyone says, hey, you can't do X, Y, and Z because this industry doesn't do well, handling that type of a strategy. But what if you did it this way? That's the type of thinking you need to have as an entrepreneur, is never stop being inquisitive in your thinking and being creative. Sometimes it's hard because creativity feels like it drains out of us, but really, like, just focusing on not always following the norm, I think, is so important, especially because AI can augment our abilities to be even more creative, and it can allow for us to do things that we might not have been able to do so quickly or so well or so different, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So it's a tool that we should definitely be using, however we're using it in our businesses, and never stop being creative. Like, do whatever you can to exercise creativity every day.
Love it. Yes, I love it, especially thinking about prompting as you're kind of using those tools to spark and expand, the ideas that you have. So just diving a little bit deeper into prompt engineering and the ways it can kind of influence the quality of your interactions and the outputs
Right.
of those interactions. How can kind of improving your the way that you interact or communicate with these AI tools, not only improve kind of like your own technical communication skills, but just kind of the overall communication skills of stakeholders and any individual kind of associated with your business?
Yeah. So it's like a non-negotiable, I think, skill for many of us now, especially if we want to use these models. So often I hear people say, well, it's just like language, it's just, you just type a sentence, I don't get it. I say, well, maybe you're not doing it right. But for the reality is, you know, there's so much to be offered when you actually effectively learn, and there are techniques out there that genuinely work. And I've tested doing something super basic versus something that was really well thought out. And I think what I'm realizing over the last year or so is like, I think as entrepreneurs, we assume like we all have this information always going on in our brains, right? How we want to do things and how we want to explain our business to people and all these things. But this is a time now where we need to actually like take a step back and like, how would we teach what we do, or how would we teach what we want to be done to someone new that joined our business? And so that's kind of how we need to talk to these AI systems, is taking what's already in our brain that we would assume people would know and kind of getting it out there first, because that provides really valuable context. But then there are amazing techniques out there. Like a lot of people love the role playing technique where you tell me that you are an architect with 30 something years of experience, right?
Right.
People love the chain of thought command prompt where you have, you know, walk me through this step by step. And that helps us see how the machine is actually processing each step, which could also have an impact on how we logically process things and present on things as well. So there's really incredible prompts. I would tell anyone, you know, just do as much as you can to interact with these tools, test them out, explore with them. Don't be afraid to do that, you know, and take courses. There's amazing courses online that are affordable that will teach you different techniques and allow you to practice. And you would see the difference in a really well engineered prompt.
Awesome. Love it. And so I guess looking forward a little bit, how do you envision, business interactions with generative AI will evolve over the next few years? And what do entrepreneurs really have to know about the impact that might have on the customer mega personas that they're developing over time?
Yeah. So, I mean, technology is constantly changing. And I think the hard thing is to be able to give a blanket statement today that is effective 12 months, 2 years from now, because we see the pace of how things are developing. But I mean, for anyone that's in the space of wanting to explore these technologies, or kind of just keep plugged into, like I said, to your vendors, but also for yourself, I think the biggest thing that I would tell anyone is really focus on understanding what systems you have and what data is passing through your systems. Because no matter what you use, you know, AI, non-AI, whatever, you need to have an awareness over your information that you're collecting, and how, if it's the right information, is this the right data that you need to be able to use generative technologies in a way that you want, right? Is the data clean? So like starting to really ask yourself those questions, those are things you could be doing today, irregardless of what big tech firms are putting out for us to be using, or you know what other investment decisions you're looking to make. So
Awesome. Awesome. So I think we have time for just a couple questions from the audience before closing out. We had a couple audience members asking about AI hallucinations, kind of just outcomes that are a little bit nonsensical. So how do you kind of combat, what strategies can entrepreneurs kind of employ, or maybe plugins or tools to kind of combat or avoid those kinds of outputs?
yeah, it's a great question. And it's a very relevant one, because yesterday, I don't know how many that are on the call now saw this article, but the Guardian, media organization based in New York City, actually has a relationship with Microsoft. Microsoft powers their polls on their actual site, where they help them generate engagement, you know, with the people that are reading their articles. And the article that they released was it was an upsetting article about, you know, someone had gotten hurt or something like that, in a school, and has sustained injuries. And the poll, you know, being powered by generative AI, ask people, like it caused them to speculate, what do you think the cause of death was? Murder, suicide, something. So it just came across very insensitive. It's very embarrassing and damaging to the brand itself, and they felt that. And this is a real life example of even experienced technology companies experiencing hallucinations and unethical responses and things like that. And so, it's one of those things that we kind of need to just keep doing the best that we can do if you're, in a position to be refining these models. But as business owners, like, just be mindful. Like, if you don't feel like you can trust something, don't put it external facing to your business. Like, your brand is everything, right? You don't want to damage that. And that could be damaged by something that isn't cohesively trained well enough. But I mean, we take that risk all the time when we use these types of tools. Thoroughly review things if you can. I wouldn't put any content out without reviewing it. But if you have something like a chat bot, or if you have something that operates independently, well, then you definitely need to have people that are experienced reviewing that before you put that anywhere external facing, because it definitely could be damaging. And just continuing to stay plugged in on like regulations and measures and like what the United States or what your country is asking of you in terms of compliance. And because there's rules being made for a reason. They're being made based off of people coming to the table talking about certain hallucinations. And so, stay plugged into guidance and regulation as well.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think we have time for one more question, and we have someone kind of asking about, like there's so many of these tools out there. Some of them do very similar things, some of them do very different things, but there's just so many options out there and it can be really overwhelming. So is there, kind of like a framework of thought for prioritizing needs and aligning those with, what the best tool to invest in might be, so you're not really like spreading yourself too thin over a whole bunch of programs?
It's another great question, because I was calling it, I think before, maybe 6 months ago, it's like subscription saturation. It's wild. And it's wild because everyone has access to the same foundation models, and all they did was create a new application that's stacked on top of it that offers a new type of way of doing things. And so very valid. There's a lot. It can be very overwhelming, even for someone that's in the business intelligence and AI space. Even sometimes I'm like, my God, it's so much information coming out every day, new developments. So my advice is, if you are looking to tap into this world, but you don't know where to begin, really like sit down first, even before you explore what technologies are out there. Find the pain points in your business. Search, talk about them. Are they in the sales function, the marketing? What is wrong? Why is this a pain point? Is it a people-based pain point? Do I not have the right talent in place? Is it a process-based pain point? Is there something broken in this process here? Do I need to fix that? Is it a technology? Is there just not a feature or an offering that I'm looking for in what I'm already using? Is it a data issue? Am I collecting the right data or information here? Figure those questions out. So like my 4 pillars as a consultant, I tell everyone, is you want to look at your business in terms of people, process, technology, and data. And that's really important because you can answer almost any question when it comes to use case identification and strategy and understanding where there's issues or there's potential resolutions, looking through those 4 pillars. And so identify the needs first, and then I would conduct research. And you can also look, you can hire a researcher, an AI research consultant as well too, to help support you navigating through finding the right tools for your business. Because yeah, I agree, it's definitely can be an overload.
Absolutely. Well, Jacqueline, I mean, this has been awesome. We've talked about so much. So I'm wondering, just to kind of close out here, if you had, a few key takeaways from some of what we talked about today that you wanted to share.
Yeah. So I would say number one, I'm just going to go back to this because I think it's very important, is data management. Take an inventory today, take a snapshot of your business over what data you're collecting, where it's passing through, what systems, and, is it clean? Just get an awareness over it, because before you make any investment decisions or anything, you should know what information you already have access to. 2 is research. You're going to want to stay current on industry, your specific industry that you're in, as relates to what are your competitors up to? What are your vendors up to? Are they creating customized solutions to be tailored fit for your needs? So really staying up to speed on that, because that could save you a lot of money too, just being aware. 3 is prioritizing your reinvestment in your education. Non-negotiable. It's not a fear tactic at this point. It's really just like you're going to lose market share if you are not adapting and pivoting in a way that you're including AI somehow into your business model. People need to know that you're actually using it. People want to see that you're innovative and that you're growing as entrepreneurs as well. And so there's a lot of new developments, even just like down to the United States issuing this executive order on AI recently. It's a 111-page document, but one of the things that really stood out to me is the fact that they're actually reinvesting and incentivizing people to stay in this country that are non-residents and not citizens that have a background in AI and education. They're extending visas easily now, just for if you can say that you're doing AI, stuff like that. The SBA is also expanding funds and funding for those that are engaged in AI. And so it's not necessarily so you have to be offering AI services. It just shows you directionally where the world's headed, and that you want to make sure you're tapped into that somehow, and that you understand how it impacts your business. 4, I would say, if you have a team or if it's just you, really think about cross-functional collaboration. You need diverse minds at the table now, because AI just does not impact one area of your business. It impacts all threads of the business. So it's probably one of the first times in a very long time where you have all board members actually talking to each other about one single thing, where they can all in agreement that they need to figure out how it impacts them. So get back to cross-functional team meetings. That's really, really important. Number 5 is get down to the lowest layers of your business. Go back into the weeds. If you're not in the weeds, go back into them, because you need to see where that's potential for low-hanging fruit, for automation opportunities, for AI opportunities that could be there. And if you're not there, you're not going to be able to identify them the way you might need to. And the 6th thing is, I would say, challenge yourself to be making business decisions that are actually based off of insights derived from your business. It's very hard to trust the data sometimes, because we all have gut instincts we want to go off of. But I think if we learn to actually lean in and start to trust what our dashboards, and given that they're accurate, right, that are actually telling us, they're telling us a different story than maybe we see, well, then that might not only free us up for more high value work, but also generate a comfort level where we can actually begin to invest and experience adapting and not being afraid of bringing AI into our businesses.
Amazing. Jacqueline, thank you so much. This has been such an incredible overview. And on behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone here today, it has just been such a pleasure to have you and to learn from you.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's a privilege to be here, and I really hope everyone found this to be informative. And like I said, you can absolutely book a complimentary, 15-minute Q&A with me the next 2 weeks. I'd be happy to help you guys. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using that link that's going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.
Thank you.